What's going on, everybody? You are tuned in to this special edition of the Stoned On Sports podcast. We are going to be talking about designated hitters slash UT spot. We're only going to be talking about a few of them, so we didn't really think it would warrant a full length live stream. So we figured we'd jump here on the side and bring this information to you. I think we are talking about four of them today, if I'm correct, and we do have a top 10 rankings for you as well. But first, Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about a few of these players today. DHs, what they can bring to the table for your fantasy team this season. Yeah, definitely excited about it. How you doing, man?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. As you guys have kind of gone through and watched our position previews, I'm sure there's some names that you thought were missing or maybe we forgot about. That's not the case at all. There's just some dudes out there who have eligibility at your utility slot only. For those of you coming over from fantasy football, imagine somebody was only available to play in your flex spot, and that's it.
Right.
So why don't we jump into the rankings for 2024? We're going to top things off, obviously, with Shohei Ohtani. Any choice other than him would just, quite frankly, be wrong, and we're not going to lead you astray. And you got Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Schwarber, who we talked about earlier. It was in I think it was the first outfield episode.
Yes.
Ozuna, Soler, Morel, Garver, Jimenez, Stanton, Rooker. Those are really all of them that are going to be relevant. And even as you get towards the bottom of that list, you've got somebody like Brent Rooker with an ADP in the 300s or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a lottery ticket only. But I think for now, why don't we jump into our first one? Shohei Ohtani. Last year, he was the number 9 overall batter. He had 579 points, averaged 4.3 points per game. He's the number 1 UT only eligible player off the board. He's got an ADP of 13, and he's coming in there with an average auction value of $40. I'm expecting him to get off to a bit of a slower start this season. I actually look to Bryce Harper's year last year as a comparison. So don't expect the power to be back right off the bat. He's still going to have plenty of opportunity to produce runs, both by driving them in and scoring runs. In his average, while I don't necessarily think he's going to hit 300 again this year, he should give you a halfway decent average. Speaking of 300, last year, played in 135 games, batted 304, drove in 95, and scored 102. He led the league with a 412 on base percentage, a 654 slug, 1,066 OPS, a 184 OPS plus, and got that part of the home run crown with 44. One of the big things that jumped out to me about his season last year was the 56-point jump in on base percentage from 2022 to 2023. A lot of that was driven by a 4.6% increase in his walk rate. He also had a 4% jump in his hard hit percentage and a 2-mile-an-hour jump in his exit velocity, which gave him a 22-point jump in his BABIP. And all those kind of come together to help him get on base at a more consistent clip that he had in the past. He also had 26 doubles and 8 triples and chipped in 20 stolen bases. I am expecting some regression in the steals again because he's coming off surgery to repair his UCL. But his StatCast data absolutely reinforces the elite performance that you're seeing from him. You look at his percentile page and it's just a sea of red.
Yes.
I swear he leads in like everything. He's top 4% in all of the expected stats, top 3% in barrel percentage, exit velocity, max exit velocity, hard hit percentage, and walk percentage. Now it's not all, candy at the plate for him. There's some swing and miss with him. 12th percentile whiff rate, and he's got an above average strikeout rate. Still, you'll take it just for everything that you're getting.
Yeah.
With his power numbers, you'd expect him to be a pull hitter, and you'd be right, but not by as much as you would think. He's a little bit over average at 32.3%, but he's got power to all fields. However, the vast majority of his home runs are somewhere from left center over to the right field line. His fly ball percentage is well above average, and that's going to play very well in Dodger Stadium this year. There were 238 home runs hit in that stadium last season, the fourth most in baseball. I am absolutely drooling over him in that lineup. I did talk about the power regression earlier, but I think he's still going to get on base at an above average clip and produce runs at an elite level in that lineup, more than justifying his hefty price tag and ADP. I think really any complaint about him would be tied to his strikeouts, but really at that point, you're just kind of nitpicking. He remains an elite option, but the limitation to UT only is kind of annoying for this year. I think he's going to have another pretty damn good year, quite frankly. I'm looking for him to have somewhere along the lines of 35 home runs, 85 RBIs, 95 scored, 10 steals, a 285, 395, 600 triple slash, good for a 995 OPS.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong with him at all. That unique power speed combination is just amazing for him. You pretty much hit everything there, other than, is his lack of positional availability a concern? You know, he's only eligible in the util. That probably pushes him back to the end of the first tier, but I mean, he's still go 8th or 9th overall.
One thing to consider, and this is just a little tip for auction leagues, when you have players who can only occupy the util slot, push them out early in the draft, because then you're going to get somebody who is going to tie up a good amount of money, especially with Shohei Ohtani, and quite frankly, rightfully so.
Oh, yeah.
But that gets a lot of money out of the pool for somebody who you can't move anywhere else.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Yordan Alvarez with the Houston Astros. ADP of 16 right now, going for $34 on average for auction values. Rightly so. Guy's a number 47 overall batter last season, scored 576 points, had 3.8 points per game, slash 293, 407, 583 with a 990 OPS, 31 homers, 97 RBIs, 77 runs, and he did it while playing 2/3 of a season. Amazing. Missed 48 games due to various injuries last year, and still almost managed to produce a 100 RBI campaign. Amazing. He was one of 7 players to slash at least 290, 400, 500 last season. Guy is a beast, and he's only 27 years old. So he averaged 140 games played in 2021 and 22. So we're hoping last year is just an outlier. He's still a young guy. What does worry me is the manager there in Houston did say there's plans to see more playing time for him in left field. I hope that's not true. He played 40 games in the outfield last season and dealt with those injuries. And I hope that's not the case, but they do plan on hitting him second. He's going to see plenty at bats. Somehow, while hitting those 31 home runs, he dropped 3% in barrel rate, and his hard hit dropped as well. I'll chalk that up to those injuries, but he did increase his launch angle almost 5 degrees. Guy is a beast. He just see a red on his StatCast too, in a lot of ways. Top 7 in the following: expected batting average, expected slugging, exit velo, barrel rate, hard hit, and walk rate. His strikeout rate, 18.5%, still well over league average. But plus that elite walk rate of almost 14%, more than kind of compensates, balance that out for you, I think. Hopefully the power level even increases a bit more. Last year he was at 626 expected, and he was finished with 583. He definitely can be one of the very few guys with 50 home runs, 130 RBI potential this season. Could happen. I definitely feel better drafting him with your first round pick over other guys that might steal bases now that steals have become, more readily available, I think. And don't forget, he's got an excellent supporting cast there in Houston. with batters all around him. I have him projected at 140 games this year. He's got to play 140, 39 home runs. He'll get 105 RBIs, probably 90 to 95 runs. Look for at least 30 doubles, so those extra base hits will help as well. Slashing 298, 393, 592 with a 985 OPS.
That's a hell of a season.
It is.
I love the power with him. He's a legit middle of the order bat. 30 or 3 straight seasons over 30 home runs. You were talking about, excuse me, his StatCast data. I think for sure there's a 40 plus home run season in there. I don't know about 50, but I definitely think he can get to the mid 30s with just, even though we saw some regression in his exit velocity and his hard hit percentage, like he's still top 4% of the league.
Yeah.
Like he's still amazing. He went from like fantastic to great. That, like, okay, I get it. One thing that was interesting, he managed to cut down on his whiff rate, but he chased more pitches out of the zone last season. And looking a little bit deeper at it, it's because he's seeing fewer pitches in the zone. He's not really getting a whole hell of a lot to hit, but you can see by just the numbers that he puts up when, he's very good about the contact and jumping on the good pitches he does hit. I wouldn't be surprised to see a dip in his average. He is hitting more fly balls and fewer line drives. And anytime you have an increase in fly ball percentage and you've got a drop in hard contact, that's a lot of cans of corn out there.
It is.
And we don't want to see that from him. But quite frankly, he's an elite option. He's an elite run producer. He isn't going to give you dick for steals, but that's not why you're drafting him in the first place.
Correct.
He is an excellent piece to build around. And especially because most likely he's going to have outfield eligibility because of the number of games he started last year.
Yep.
Up next is our number 4 DH/UT guy, Marcell Ozuna. Last season, he was the number 29 overall batter, scored 477 points, good for 3.3 points per game. Right now, he's the number 4 UT player coming off the board, an ADP of 143. And to me, a very reasonable $10 AAV. He had a remarkable resurgence last year in his age 32 season. So he's in the back end of his prime, but he's definitely starting to get up there in years. A big reason why he did so well was he played in 140 games for the first time since 2018. And that overall gave him his best season since 2017. He had a triple slash, a 274, 346, 558, good for a 905 OPS, had a career high 40 home runs, drove in 100 on the dot and scored 84. In your league, he's likely only going to be eligible in that utility slot because he only started 2 games in left field last season. It's something funny just looking at the differences between 2022 and 2023. Last year, his 274 average exactly matched his 274 on base percentage in 2022. So you can see just how much he improved there. He saw big gains in his runs, home runs, RBI, and all triple slash categories. But where did all that come from? First up, he had a big jump in his hard contact. His exit velocity was up 2.4 miles an hour, up to 91.8. His hard hit percentage was up over 5% to 49.2%. Which is just ridiculous when you consider that league average is only 39%. So both of those are well above average. He cut down on his strikeout rate by 2.5%, sitting at 22.6. It's just a hair above league average, but not awful. But he more than makes up for it with his 9.6% walk rate, which is up 3.5% year over year. That's about 1% over league average. That's great, especially considering just the archetype of hitter that he's been throughout his career. A big reason for the jump in average, too. He was the entire field better last season than he has at any point in his career. He cut down on his pull percentage by 4.5%, and he now sits below league average at 28.4%. And that's something that you really love to see from somebody who hits that many home runs. look, anybody can pull the ball, but your average is going to suffer, right? That's why the shift is so damn effective.
Yeah.
He does great at elevating the ball, which works very well in the hot, humid weather of Atlanta in the summer. He's got a 32.4% fly ball rate and a 15.6-degree launch angle. Both are pretty damn good. He's among the league leaders in pretty much every expected stat because of his hard contact and his top 4% max exit velocity. Again, the UT only eligibility is going to be a pain, but the power potential, team context, and overall cheap cost make him a solid choice, I think. For this year, I am expecting a little bit of regression because I'm not going to chase a career year coming from a 32-year-old. Somewhere around 30 home runs, he'll drive in 90, score 80, a 250, 330, 550 triple slash, good for an 880 OPS, and an absolutely exciting lineup.
For sure. Good news. Almost every stat from 2023 fell in line with his career numbers, like strikeout rate, contact percentage, swinging strikes percentage as well, BABIP, and his average exit velocity. So that's good. There's no pattern of his abilities diminishing. He did actually underperform his expected stats a little bit, according to Fangraphs. Had that 274 batting average. His expected was 10 points higher at 284, and the slugging expected was 583. Came in lower than that, at 558. My only other concern, there's going to be some regressions. He's disappeared before after pretty good fantasy seasons. 2015 and 2018 come to mind. But still, that batted ball data is elite. I think he's, low risk, high upside pick at his ADP. If you miss out on him, you got Christopher Morel, 30 home run potential. That starts to dry up around Ozuna's ADP. A few picks later, you could get somebody like Christopher Morel. Very good potential.
Look at that smooth segue.
50 picks later. Speaking of Christopher Morel, we have him. He's at the Chicago Cubs. ADP of 188, going for $8. We have him as our number 6th ranked DH util spot. He was the number 146 overall batter last season. Played 107 in games. Got 96 hits. Smashed 26 home runs in those 107 games. 70 RBIs and 62 runs with 6 stolen bases. Had an OPS of 821. Slugging over 500, not bad. Who is Christopher Morel? He's pretty much a power over hit guy who violently and loudly crushes baseballs and who possesses this unique defensive versatility. He hit 26 homers in the majors last year, as I mentioned before. He also hit 11 last year in AAA. Guy's a slugger. He's one of only 18 major league batters last season to maintain a hard hit percentage of 50% or greater over 400 plate appearances, which places him in the company of guys like Judge, Shohei, Yordan, Soto, Olsen, and Ronald Acuna. Not to mention expected slugging. He was in the top 15%. Average exit velo, top 10%. Barrel rate, a sick 15.9. That gives him top 5% in the league. Now the bad. Plenty of swing and miss to his game.
Yes, there is.
Very bad. Below average chase rate of 28.9%. His whiff rate, he's in the bottom 2% of the league. And strikeout rate, of course, kind of correlates that at a whopping 31%. It's a bottom 10% of the league. Walk rate, average 8.4, right around there. Needs to be a little bit more patient at the plate. Now, he is playing third at spring training so far. That gives him an additional path to playing time and that multi-position value that he already had with DH, outfield, and second base eligibility. Last year, he started at all 3 infield positions, second base, third base, shortstop, and all 3 outfield spots, and 59 times at DH. If he gets 600 plate appearances, I think he's clearly capable of 35 to maybe even 40 home runs. We shall see.
And 200 strikeouts.
Right, with 211 strikeouts or something. But yes, you got to take the good with the bad sometime. 2024, I got him playing 130 games. I'll go conservative, 28 home runs, 70 RBIs, 70 runs. Look for 20 to 25 doubles, of course. And he only had 6 stolen bases. I'm going to be brave and say he'll get 9 or 10. He's in the top 20% in the league for sprint speed. I think with some more playing time, he can get a handful more. I got him slugging or slashing 243, 314, 486 for an even 800 OPS.
Isn't it cute how the math works out that way?
Sure does.
Look, you're absolutely right. This is a dude that hits the ball with authority, but that whiff rate, that's just so hard for me to get over. Imagine more than a third of the time when you swing the bat, you miss.
Yeah,
that's bad. And I get the power is nice, but you need to not be a hole in the lineup. And one thing you need to understand about major league pitching, when they find a hole in your swing, they're going to pound it and pound it and pound it and pound it until you prove you can hit it. And so far, he's not really done that.
yeah.
He is a dead pull hitter. His pull percentage is 14 points above league average, but he is going to have plenty of chance for run production in that lineup. I think the Cubs are going to have one of the better lineups, be one of the more fun teams to watch. Shout out to Ramey. You need to take a look at not only your league provider, but your league settings, because there could be some multi-positional eligibility there. Since he played at second, third, short in the outfield last season, coming into camp, like you mentioned, they're going to be taking a look at him at third base. Obviously, he's going to be more valuable if you can plug him into the third base slot, other than, if he's stuck in UT only or something like that. All right, so that's going to wrap up our DH/UT preview. We appreciate you coming along the ride with us. We are on the march to 200 subscribers, and we can't get there without your support. So please like, subscribe. Let us know in the comments how you think we're doing. If there's something you want to see that you haven't, or vice versa, we are down for it all. Next week, we are going to be talking about starting pitchers. Can't wait for that. So you'll be able to find that there on the YouTube channel. We're there every Tuesday and Thursday night at 7:00.
And don't forget the rankings. All those are on the website, stonedonsportspodcast.com. Check it out.
Sweet. See you, everyone.